Welcome to DocTalk with your host, Brent Leavitt. And DocTalk with Brent is sponsored by Battleborn Financial.
Welcome to DocTalk. This is Brent Leavitt. I'm with Battleborn Financial Advisor and Health Insurance Broker here in Pahrump. Today we're doing a Zoom virtual meeting as we, with this COVID stuff, we're trying to make sure we're a little bit more social distancing. And we're joined here with Shelly Thompson, a nurse practitioner over at Intermountain Healthcare. And we're going to learn a little bit more about what they do there in those clinics. We've met in the past with a couple of my generation doctors and talked a lot about Intermountain and how they work here in town. And we actually get the pleasure of meeting with one of the wonderful nurse practitioners and how they support a lot of the primary care. A lot of people I've had recently tell me that, oh man, I'm just tired. Sometimes I just want to see my primary care doctor, but they forget that the nurse practitioners are just as good, if not better, than some of the doctors are. And they're a lot easier to be seen, especially if you have a special condition. So with that being said, I want to introduce Shelly here and talk a little bit more to her. And we'll talk a little about insurance, integrating that, and stuff like that. Questions about anything we talk about today, feel free to call my office. We'll have the number on the bottom of the screen there. Make an appointment with us, battlebornfinancialadvisor.com. You can actually go directly to our appointment login if you want to talk about your insurance at battlebornins.com. And then you can also call our office at 764-2252. If you want to make an appointment with Intermountain Healthcare, and it's no longer healthcare partners, we're going to say Intermountain in this segment a lot too, is make sure you know that they go to, it's intermountainhealthcare.org/Nevada, and you can see and talk to your primary care, make an appointment online, or you can call their phone number, the 775-727-5500, and they can get an appointment to see you. With that being said, introduce our wonderful nurse practitioner, Shelly. Tell us about yourself, Shelly, and tell us a little bit about what you do there and how long you've been with Intermountain and all that fun stuff.
Well, I work with the adults and geriatrics, the older group. I work in my gen, that's our senior citizens, most of them. I've been here almost 2 years and absolutely love it. I've met so many wonderful people here.
Yeah. And what people don't know is the My Generation clinic. So Intermountain Healthcare there is, they kind of segregate it a little bit. They do that because the My Generation doctors, they focus on the Medicare Advantage patients. Those are people that only on either like the Humana HMO, Humana PPO. They're now accepting United Healthcare patients on their HMO plans here in town, which is really wonderful. And next year, they're going to be accepting Select Health patients on certain Select Health plans as well. So they're actually going to be accepting 3 different insurance carriers here in Pahrump. They do offer a lot of services, especially if they focus on that over 65 or Medicare population. So they're really focused on making sure you get access to care. His biggest complaint, especially when you're on Medicare, is I can't see my doctor. I want to see my doctor.
Right.
And people think, oh, HMOs are horrible because they can't see my doctor. Like, well, that's changing quite a bit in healthcare.
It is.
With that being said. So how long you been, are you from Nevada originally, or where are you from originally?
Originally Mississippi.
Yeah, too.
So this is a lot different from where I came from.
Yeah. And Pahrump's an interesting town. You came all the way out here to this little town out here, and you're like, what's going on here in this little town?
No, I love it. I love it. Most of our patients are our neighbors, our friends, our family, because this is a small town.
Yeah. And you actually live here in town then?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's awesome. See, we love people that are local here. Yeah, a lot of people commute out from Vegas, and that's always like, oh, this wonderful town. You can live a lot better out here, you know?
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, we moved out here. I moved out here about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago myself, and I've just loved it here, and it's wonderful. I was born and raised in Vegas though, so a little bit not too far. It's not like Mississippi, but that's a big change. So what kind of stuff on a day-to-day, like how do you see patients, things like that? Like how do nurse practitioners really help, like with the My Generation clinics?
Well, we have schedules just like the physicians do, but we work more off of what we call blue sheets, where patients call in and they need to see their doctor faster than what their appointment may be in a few months down the road. They can see us within 24, 48 hours if something acute comes up. That's what we're here for. So they don't have to wait and they don't have to run to the emergency room, and we can take care of it.
What are those? What kind of acute things are we talking about?
Well, around here we have a lot of people with respiratory issues, such as COPD, asthma, diabetes. We have a lot of patients with that. Things like that, where they don't have it under control, or they may be having just a what's the word? An exacerbation, what you might call, where it comes up and it needs to be dealt with and taken care of. So we're here, and we take care of those things.
So like, especially right now with as we record this today, it's actually super smoky outside.
Yes.
So what do you recommend? A lot of those people with COPD, I can see that being a big concern, especially with your air quality being diminished right now.
It is. We've seen several patients because of this. And we do have to order, sometimes we have to order steroids to help with their breathing, sometimes antibiotics. It just depends on their symptoms.
Yeah, so like, especially if you're going out, your body can start attacking itself, being like, wait a minute, there's stuff in the air, like,
exactly.
Get rid of it, get out of me, and they need steroids and stuff like that. That's seems kind of scary a little bit, but
it is.
And it's always like a fear of, I want to see my doctor right away, and it's like, but I need to see him now. I'm dying here, you know. I got the COVID. What do you do? What do you do? And I think the biggest fear, especially, how do you determine a lot of people I think right now are afraid too. It's still that knowledge of maybe I do have COVID, especially right now with the breathing problems. I would think that could be a concern for a lot of people, right? Are you guys doing a lot of testing there in the facility for COVID antibodies?
No, sir, we don't do the testing.
Yeah,
we don't.
Yeah, but we do have a lot of programs doing here in town that are offering it, so it's pretty easy.
Yes, I think Serenity Healthcare does.
Yeah, and then the nice thing with the clinic, you guys are very clean. Normally you're wearing a mask, but you took it off for the video so we can see your smiling face and things like that. You know, that nice thing about the Intermountain Healthcare is you guys are very clean clinics and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
One of the biggest thing I've been impressed by is especially the name branding change. A lot of people think that Intermountain, they don't really know much about the brand, but they're a top 3 hospital or top 3 medical.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Huge corporation that's really looked at changing healthcare. I think a lot of people look at the old healthcare partners programs and say, well, it maybe wasn't as efficient as they liked it to have been. Mm-hmm. But I think Intermountain Healthcare is, I don't know if have you noticed any big differences? Has it been a lot more streamlined and better?
We haven't really had much of a change, but we are now seeing changes here in the last several months. And they're such a wonderful, successful company, and we were so glad when they came and they chose us. We were so glad. Everybody was so excited because they're known for, you know, their reputation of taking such good care of patients and making such a change in the community, and we want that here.
Yeah, we want to make sure that, especially in Pahrump, where it's like we think about our little town and how things are. So we're we're socially distanced as it is in this town.
I know.
We don't have to go to Vegas for everything. It's great that we have this little community center that can be taking care of us and also right away. I know you don't deal with the other side of things, but I mean, I do want to mention to everybody too on the show that if you're not even on Medicare, let's say you're under 65 or things like that, the clinic does still take care of you. It's not like you're segregated with that regard. Mm-hmm. They just want to be more efficient with their patients. So they actually have a different segment too, like where they manage the 5 private fee-for-service patients and stuff too. And so the whole model is geared around just taking care of the patients as they pass along in different stages of their lives. And your needs are different when you're younger than when you get a little older.
Exactly.
I'm still relatively young, I guess. I got my young kids at home. I got 6 little kids, and it's crazy. But I've realized as I gotten older, my body changes. I mean, as I gotten older, I cut my finger a couple of years ago, like a year ago. I do kung fu, and I realized that my knee I just busted my knee the other day. I'm like, man, I'm getting old. The things are falling apart. And I have some people that work with me that are in their late 60s, and they're like, man, I'm falling apart. And I wake up one day and things are swollen that I didn't expect to be swollen. You know, where that come from. And and it's geared around that mindset, especially here in Intermountain. It's like, hey, let's we have this one segment for people that are under 65, and how do we work with you and things like that. And as you get a little older, you get to that age of Medicare, it's like we want to keep that efficiency going. So they create that my generation stuff to be like, hey, we know your generation, we know how to help you out, we know if things are going to get swollen. They don't expect it to. It's like, hey, wait a minute, we got to take care of you a little better. And that's what they do there. And if you want to make an appointment with them, give them a call. Again, their website's on the bottom there. It's the intermountainhealthcare.org/Nevada. I think even the little website links back to it, the hcpnd.org. And if you still want to go to that one, that still goes there too. But you go to the seven, and also their number is the 775-727-5500. And if you're suffering, especially right now, like COPD, diabetes, something that's chronic, and you're a member of the My Generation Clinic, if you're on like the Humana Gold Plus plan, the HMO, remember, it says a nice thing about that plan, it's a zero copay for most of the plans to see your primary care doctor. It's not a big hindrance to see them, and you can get on there and see the doctor right away. And if you're on even if you're on like the other United Healthcare plans too, you can actually switch your primary care doctor anytime. And you can switch to the healthcare or Intermountain Healthcare Network and have them as your primary care now too. The only plan that's not a part of that is the Medicare Focus plan. So if you're on that old senior interventions product, unfortunately that one's not still eligible for that. But all the other products they have, the Walgreens Plan 1, and then the Medicare Complete is also part of that network. So it's a really good program. Get them to see them. And if you also want to make an appointment with us, if you want to switch to your insurance because you really want to see them, you're like, man, I'm not on that plan. I switched to the wrong one. I want to see them, and I want to get that efficiency and see my doctor in a couple days. Call my office, battlebornins.com and the 764-2252. We have a few more minutes in the segment here, but we talked a lot about primary care and things like that, and quick access to care and things like that with you. Why do people, when people come in and they see the nurse practitioner, do they get to pick which nurse practitioner they get to see or anything like that? Or is it kind of like first come, first serve?
Well, yeah, it's all of us. I think all of us, some of us have more experience than the others, but we all feel the same way about the patients. We're all very passionate in their care. And I can't say the one is better than the other. I can't.
Do you guys take turns of who you see your patients, or is it pretty much just whatever comes in, whoever's available that day takes care of the patients?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you have about how many nurse practitioners are there in the facility?
We have three. Yeah.
And all three of them support all. I think there's 8 primary care doctors in the My Generation program as well.
It is. And we work with those very close and talk with them about the patients and their care.
Okay. And if somebody wants to see you as their primary, is that possible? Or do they have to pick one of their other primary care doctors?
No, right now it's not possible because we want the quick access for the patients. We don't want to be so overloaded that we can't see them when they want to come and see us really fast.
Okay. And when they're establishing care for the first time, is that something that, do they end up seeing you first, or do they end up seeing their actual primary care doctor?
Well, sometimes they see us just to establish if they need to go ahead and get in, because sometimes they need medications and things, especially if they're moving from somewhere else and they need to go ahead and get their medications, and they can't wait 2 or 3 months. So we go ahead and get them started and see what their needs are, and we start those treatment plans, and we share that information with the provider that they choose.
That's a good question. I get a lot of people come in from out of state, and that's a big thing. They do a new plan. They're like, I had to sign up for that new Humana plan. I got my primary care doctor, Wilson, whoever they want to have, Russ, Bank, whoever it is, and they want to establish that care, but they're concerned about seeing the doctor in a timely manner, and then how long is medications. How do you guys manage that transition, especially if like they come from out of state? How do you know what medications are on and things like that? How do you know?
Well, they'll bring their medications in with them, and we go through it, and it says what their prescriptions have, and we talk with their different illnesses and different treatment plans that they've been on in the past, and we work to improve that to lead them toward a more healthier life,
Okay. So do you ever get medical records from other doctors and stuff?
Yes. Yes, we do. We do request those.
Okay. And what's the process for that? Is that something the patient has to do, or is that something that?
No, we actually take care of it for them. We get their permission to do that, and we take care of it. We want to take as much of the hassle off of the patient, and we try to do all that we can.
Does that take a while at all? Do they get those records over, or is that something?
It depends. It depends on where they're coming from.
So if the doctor that doesn't want to release them from back home, is that?
Yes.
How do you overcome
Sometimes
those? How do you overcome that usually? Is it something you have to just push them?
we're just persistent. We're just persistent.
Is there like a dedicated team that does that? That just does medical record exchange?
Well, I know that my medical assistant, she's very persistent with them. And I think several of them are the same way. They just keep working on it.
Okay, yeah. 'Cause that's like I said, that's a big concern for people. It's like, hey, I'm coming to this new desert town, and how do I do it? And some people, they come here, then they leave, and come back because they're like, I can't get away from here. And it's like, man, you're just constantly moving medical records around. Or we have a lot of RVers too. Do you guys do a lot of them?
We do.
How do you work with them, especially when they leave the town for a couple months? Do you guys send out prescriptions for months at a time, or how does that usually work too?
Actually, well, we actually just order their medication at whatever pharmacy they're at. They let us know where they're at.
So can they call you while they're in Hammond, Texas this month? What do you do? Like,
Yes, we're only a phone call away.
how do they get a hold? I mean, when they call in, how do they get that? How are they able to get a hold of you guys and stuff? Is that something they just call the main number, the 727?
Yes.
500? And do they say, hey, I want to talk to my doctor? Do you actually punch them through, or how does that process work usually?
Well, they usually talk to a nurse, and the nurse will guide them or direct them into who they need to talk to. And if they need medications refilled, she will send that message of the patient, what they need, to the physician or one of the nurse practitioners to take care of it, and we take care of it.
So you look at the records and say, well, yeah, he is taking that prescription.
Yes. Yes.
That can be tough. I know some people, it's the tough thing is also if you're on any kind of, Nevada has a lot of stringent rules about certain medications and things like that pills. Is that ever a big concern for you guys too, or how does that usually work with a lot of those restricted prescriptions?
Well, there's certain things that we can check that are national, and we check those things just to make sure that we do everything within the guidelines.
Okay, yeah. And you could probably e-scribe a lot of stuff too, right? It's like, hey, it's something that goes over.
We do. We do a lot of that.
You do a lot of e-scribing and that. Yeah, I think that's, I know that's one of our frustrations as a family. Sometimes the e-scribe stuff in the past for a lot of things have gone through, and it's like, why is this happening? But you guys are usually pretty good about that over there.
Yeah, every once in a while you have issues with the internet, but most of the time we have it.
Yeah, and you have to make sure their systems talk to each other back and forth, things like that. Yeah, it's wonderful to work with them, and you guys have such big support staff too. It's like everybody has their own little task, and it makes it easier when you're not like trying to do everything, be everything to everyone, and having that support. And the nice thing is also that Blue Sheet program. When I first heard about that, that was like my biggest thing. I was like, man, that's a great program that I never heard of before. Especially you mentioned, I think it's a separate clinic. You're in the Amargosa pod.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, people don't just walk into the pod, right? It's pretty much they walk in the facility and say, hey, I'm here for an appointment, or do they actually go to the pod first?
They can go to any pod, and any representative sitting there at the pod will guide them where they need to go. Okay. If they need, we take walk-ins in our pod. They may not have an appointment. They just walk up and we take care of them. Sometimes they may have to wait, 10 minutes or so, but we will see them. We will fit them in.
What time do the doors open usually for you guys?
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock.
Yeah, and here you are at 8 o'clock talking to me, taking time away. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful. I say all the time I'm recording this video, but it's like this is going to be broadcast. We do 2 recordings on Thursdays and Saturdays. So hope you're watching this in the morning on Saturday or even on YouTube afterwards. It's wonderful. But I really appreciate that, and how service of the community and stuff like that. And the nurse practitioners you work with, the other 2 practitioners, we were talking about them a little bit too. They've been with the company for a long time too, haven't they?
2 years. Renee has been here a little longer, just a year or so, I think. Renee has 40 years of experience. She's very resourceful for us. And but Lindy and I started at the same time.
Yeah. So what brought you out here was it this job that brought you out to this area, or was it just thought it would be fun to move out to Southern Nevada?
Um, well, I moved to Pahrump, and I've been a nurse for many years.
Oh, okay.
And as Lindy was too. And then we chose to be a nurse practitioner as we got older. I've lived here for 6 years.
Oh, so you've actually been in Pahrump a lot longer than the 2 years.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you moved out here as a nurse, and then you got your nurse practicing in Pahrump?
No, I actually went somewhere else to get that.
So you got and then you started working for Intermountain after that as well? Oh, okay.
Correct.
In your career, where have you been before that? What were you doing when you got into nursing in the first place? Were you like a hospitalist mostly, or were you in doctor's offices? What were you?
No, I worked in the hospital. I have a lot of critical care experience. Oh no.
Did we lose you there a little bit?
I lost you.
Okay. It was freezing a little bit for a second there.
All right. I have a lot of critical care experience, working in ICUs, heart units, ERs, things like that. Whereas Lindy worked with a lot of oncology patients. She also worked with hospice. And we just added that knowledge to what we do now. And sometimes I have to ask her things about oncology patients, and sometimes she has to ask me about critical care. When we see patients come in that are a little sicker than most.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, the nice thing about nurse practitioners people don't realize, and we've talked about other nurse practitioners we met with in the show, is you're instead of going a lot more as much schooling, you get a lot more actual in-person, like you have to actually have experience in the field working with patients, right?
Yes, yes.
So you're kind of right there talking to people and things like that and working them like head on. And so your experience is not just dealing with, paperwork, things like it's actually like seeing real people and dealing with real cases and stuff like that.
Hands-on. Over 20 years, and I'd have it no other way. I love what I do.
Yeah. And you started off working underneath, as a nurse, as you kind of work underneath, working with people, and then you kind of get those credentials to be that practitioner where you can actually start doing prescriptions, things like that, as you get that experience and know what to expect.
Yes.
That's phenomenal. That's why, that's why we have you guys. It's like, and people are, like I said, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to see my doctor, and they don't realize that the nurse practitioners they're not, some they don't know what they're doing. In fact, they've been there. They've seen this before. It's like, man, I've dealt with patients just like you in the past. I've done hundreds of thousands of these. And that's not to be afraid of. And those blue sheets are great, and use them. Don't be afraid to see your primary care doctor, or even just go in to see, the Amargosa pod. And if it's a walk-in situation, from 8 o'clock until I think 5 o'clock at night.
Yes. Sometimes we're here a little longer. We do have the extended hours with some of our providers, and we stay here sometimes till after 6. It just depends on what's going on, and how much care that they need, because we offer a lot of things for them here.
Yeah, and that's Monday through Friday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then Saturdays you guys have and Saturdays and Sundays we have the urgent care clinic as well.
We do.
I will say this, just so you know too, there's a difference between the Amargosa clinic and the urgent care clinic. And a lot of people, I remember on Facebook when somebody's arguing on their plan, they're on the Humana Gold plan. I was like, sorry about that. My alarm's going off here, but we're going to wrap it up here in a second. But just want to say that also the urgent care copay over at, if you go to the urgent care, it is a copay on your plan. All the plans have a copay for urgent care. They're going to charge it to you. Unfortunately, it's either a $10 to $40 copay depending on what plan you're on, especially on an HMO. The emergency room visits, if you go to the ER, that's a different thing altogether. But urgent care does have a copay. If you're seeing your primary care doctor or the blue sheets, they give you the standard primary care to visit copay, which is typically a lot of especially like Humana Gold Plus, it's a zero copay to see this doctor.
Right.
But don't get confused. A lot of people, they're frustrated, like, why does Intermountain charge me $10 for their urgent care, $40 over? It's not that they're trying to be jerks. It's just, it's on the plan, and it's the purpose. They want to make sure you take care of yourself, and it kind of gets you step back and say, wait a minute, is this something that's critical? But maybe during that 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 on Monday through Friday, you can go to see those. They do make themselves accessible at the zero copay.
Exactly.
Those practitioners that are phenomenal. that know what they're doing. And we got like
Yes.
Shelly here, who's even like, she's our native. She sees you. I mean, she'll care about you and take care of you and things like that. You don't, and your primary care doctor is available too, but they make sure that they give you more access, things like that, where you can have those care.
Exactly.
And we're gonna close up here in the session here, but don't forget, call Intermountain Healthcare, make an appointment, see your doctor, 727-5500, and intermountainhealthcare.org/Nevada. You can also call my office, the 764-2252. If you want to discuss your insurance needs, helping get that transition over, if you want to be able to see these doctors and take advantage of this wonderful program. Again, like I said, they take the Humanical Plus plan. They're on United Healthcare even, and then next year they're gonna have Select Health even. So we have 3 choices we're gonna have with these new HMO plans that are phenomenal, and even on the Humana PPO. And just give us a call, like talk to us about these different programs. And thank you so much, Shelly, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna go and wonderful for that.